And if you are muted, you just hold down the space bar on your keyboard, and that unmutes you.
I mute it.
There's a mute button in the bottom left corner of my screen.
My screen as well.
Okay, guys, I believe we're ready to start the meeting. Let's start with the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the roll call. Bill Taylor.
Here.
Jim Grimes.
Here.
Rick Drew.
Here.
Susan McGraw-Keeber.
Here. I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
I didn't mean to laugh at you. Tim Garneau.
Here.
Mike Martinson.
Here.
I'm missing someone.
Me, John Aldred here.
John Aldred and
Don't forget about me.
Ben.
Yep,
Ben.
I'm here.
Okay. Chris Carrillo.
Present.
Okay, and I think Arlene is just watching.
I'm here silently, yes.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll start with public comment.
Francis, before we get started again, I'd like to one more time make a blanket statement for the trustees and for the public that this meeting is being held in connection with Governor Cuomo's relaxation of the open meetings law. So we are being broadcast live on this on the LTV website with all participants here participating. So we are operating according to the current state of the open meetings law. And that's all I'd like to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, are you there? How do we take calls from the public? Mm-hmm. But you're controlling those calls, correct? Okay.
Trustees, are we hearing somebody with some background noise, like a TV or something playing in the background? Does somebody not have it muted?
It may be Jason, the other tech. Okay. Yes, please. Please introduce yourself. Hello, caller. Hello.
My name is Greg Barletta.
Hi, Greg.
How are you?
Okay. What would you like to speak to us about?
Well, I'm concerned about Accabonac Creek and the point and how it hasn't been dredged out. It's definitely a major dangerous situation for the summer coming up with the people and swimmers that don't pay attention and stay in that channel. I came in there the other day. I was helping Andy Rigby and Doug Rigby drive traps, and I was behind them, and the tide was coming out, and so you kind of had to be under power because you can only fit one boat through that what I call the channel, and God forbid someone swimming there, and you got to kind of be under half throttle just to get through because there's so much current going through. And to stay in the channel, you have to do an S-turn, and it's extremely dangerous. God forbid there's another boat coming, and you can't even see them. This is going to be a real problem this summer, and I'm concerned for the safety of swimmers. I'm concerned for the safety of boaters. I mean, I have my boat on mooring in there, and I've had it in there for 8 years. So I'm just wondering what you guys are going to do about it.
Okay, Greg, one of the problems we have right now is the fact that there are a pair of piping plovers there. So getting work done for this summer is going to be difficult at the very least. The good news is that whole channel is on the priority list for this fall to be redredged. But
well, are you going to close the downs for?
I'm sorry.
Are you guys going to close down the point? Are you guys going to close down the point for swimmers then? Because someone's going to get hurt. And this was brought up by Mike Havens about 2 months ago to one of the trustees. And I don't understand why. I mean, the permit, I know there's a emergency dredging permit in place, and now the window has been missed because of the pulver.
Well, it's a county permit.
I mean, it's just I know, but it's dangerous. I mean, it was brought up to you guys, and it's either you guys are going to close it for swimming and the people, so as commercial guys can operate and go out without having to at least take that into consideration that there's going to be a swimmer there. I mean, anytime you guys want to go for a boat ride, we'll do it. I don't care. We'll show you how bad it is.
I'm down there every single day pretty much, so I know what you're talking about.
So if you're down there every single day, why wouldn't you guys even think to do anything? You know how bad it is.
Okay, as I said, that permit is owned by the county, not by the trustees. So we have recently been trying to get permission to do some work on that under their permit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. I know you've been in touch with them.
We tried to get them to do it, and we're going to try and, if they can't do it, we can try and get the permit, and we can perhaps make the channel a little wider and leave the stuff on the end. But there's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through, but we're aware of it, and we're going to do whatever we can to fix it. And nobody should be swimming in the channel. I mean,
no, they
not
should be
right
on the
now, but I can tell you, come July, even June, I mean, I Accabonac, I go clamming all the time. I go help my buddies with pound traps. I'm in and out of that channel 5-6 times in and out, and I know my buddies are a hell of a lot more than I am. And you can't see another boat coming in or leaving. You cannot see it. And I'm gonna, the people that are gonna launch their boats in there, that don't have their boats in there, that don't know the channel, it's gonna be really dangerous. I'm like really concerned for the safety of a swimmer, and God forbid I'm coming in, and it's me. I'm really concerned.
I
mean, you
completely
guys
understand.
really have to address this. Because you got to let us operate and work, you know.
At the moment, we're trying to figure something out. We do not have the answer right this moment. But I can tell you that the entire channel is going to be redone in the fall. So we're doing the best we can.
No, and I understand that. I'm only complaining because I'm worried about the swimming, and the boating accident that can happen, and that's one thing. But someone swimming, when you have to make that S turn under power when the current's coming and not going 5 miles an hour, you cannot get out. You cannot get out. Turn to get out of the way of hitting this person, because when the current is so choked up there now, and the speed at which it's coming out, it's like, I don't know if you've ever gone through the Shinnecock Canal when the tides change in there. You have to be under power, not just going, 800 RPM.
All participants are muted.
So it's really dangerous for the swimmers.
I understand. We're trying to figure it out. We don't have the answer. One of the main problem right now is the presence of the plovers. So to move the sand, I'm not quite sure how we're going to do it. So we need time to think about this. And we need permission from the county to work with their permit.
Yeah.
So it's not something we're not aware of.
It's not just the I know. It's not just something about the dredging. Like, I wish you guys could dredge it, because then it would be good. You guys got to really look into restricting people and from going on that point, because it's really going to be bad. I'm telling you. I've gone out of this channel and seen it with my own eyes this year, and I already know what's going to happen.
Well,
and
maybe if it comes down to it, we're going to have to put in a buoyed off area for swimming only. I'm not sure. But we will.
I think you had to put a fence across the whole point so nobody can go across it, and then put a buoy line up as well for swimmers.
It's a possibility.
I'm just concerned. I got young kids that are down there, which they know not to go down there and swim on that point. But there's plenty of people that go down there with their kids, and it's so that's all I got to say about it, and hopefully you guys can do something about it.
I appreciate your input. Thank you, Greg.
You have a great night.
Okay. Matt, is there anyone else on the line?
All participants are muted. All participants are unmuted.
Oh.
All participants are muted. All participants are unmuted.
Isn't working. Michael, are you there?
My name's
I,
Andrew.
I am, but I didn't have a question, the phone call, because the live stream isn't working.
You're just listening in. He,
Yep, I'm good. I don't have any questions.
okay, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Next call. Andrew Rigby. Are you on?
Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Andrew. Hello?
I was calling about. Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Andrew.
You can hear me now? Okay, hey, how are you all doing? I was calling about the channel at Accabonac Harbor, the lab, and there's going to be a major issue there this summer. There's a major safety. I'm a commercial fisherman. I've been, using that harbor for a long time since I was a little kid. And, the point that only pretty much a single boat could pass through it. And with, people using it commercially, recreational, I think that there's going to be a major safety issue there. The point has built up numerous years in a row, as it always does. We need to figure out something and pull that point back, because right now there is a very narrow passageway, and it is going to be a major safety problem for our recreational people and especially our commercial people. I just would like to bring that to you guys' attention. If you could, take a look at that whole build out of that point on the Louse Point side. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, we were just talking with Greg Beretta.
Yeah, Barletta, yes.
About the same subject. And as I explained to him, one of the problems there is that the permit is owned by the county. We in the past have been able to get their permission to do work on that point underneath their permit.
Okay.
But at the moment, there's also a problem with the presence of piping clovers. So we have to figure out a way to work around those and get the permission on the permit at the same time. Again,
I think it's going to be a major issue. I mean, even though we've been pretty much on lockdown now, you still just go out of there, and the way the passage is now, you have to really to get out of that channel, and we're putting our trap holes in and stuff, and on a low water, it is last year I touched bottom a couple times, ruined a prop. A couple of the baymen have done the same thing, especially where you can't see traffic coming in or out on a low water. It will pose a problem, and God forbid somebody ever gets hurt and run over by a boat. I think that we really need to look at the safety aspect of this. There's know that numerous people use this place during the summertime, and there's swimmers that go in against the rules. We could put a bunch of buoys. They don't respect them, and they'll swim in a channel, or if you don't even see them sometimes. And I'm just afraid, and just would like to, hopefully maybe we could address it, get something done soon.
are working on it, and I'm sure we'll come up with some sort of solution.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I
Okay.
appreciate it. I just wanted to, put it out in the public to, pay attention to it because, a lot of local people talk about it and there's so much and it's really, really dangerous and, we just, it's a great place and we just need to hopefully not make it a dangerous place instead, so.
I understand. I don't know if you heard me tell Greg earlier, but it is scheduled to be completely dredged by the county in the fall. So they're going to come in and do a pretty major job there. So we have to figure out how to get through this summer.
Yeah,
Right.
if we could, in temporary time, which the state, the county, is going to come in and dredge. That's obviously dug out, but if we had unexpendable money there, they probably would have, as in the meantime, this just taking that point off on the Gerards, on the last point side would definitely be a beneficial for everybody. And I know you guys are busy and got a lot of issues going on and what have you, but hopefully we could, maybe work his own calls or if there's anything that the local people could do to call the county and ask them to pay particular attention to this safety, maybe we could get something pushed through pretty quick.
Okay, I appreciate your offer. We'll let you know.
Okay, I appreciate it, and thank you for listening to me, and you guys have a good evening.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good evening.
All right. Yep, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I just lost everything somehow.
Yeah,
I have nothing on my screen. Oh, I got it. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Okay, we're expecting
I bet Francis.
Peter Mendelman.
Yeah, Peter Mendelman, I was going to say. He's on
I'm
here.
here.
Oh, you are there, Peter.
Yes, I am.
Okay. How about you go now?
Okay. I'll keep it short. Last fall, we applied for and got very quickly a permit to replace one piling at Harbor Marina on 3 Mile Harbor. And unfortunately, the Keith Grimes Inc. barge was unable to come last fall to do the work. We've gone through the winter. We have 2 more damaged pilings that we would like to replace. I sent photos to the trustee 3 Mile Harbor Committee. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I do have those photos available. I can start the video and show them if anybody else is interested. But I have filled out on John Aldred's recommendation a permit application for those 3 piling replacements. Grimes is finishing up the town dock work at the southern end of 3 Mile Harbor, and he thinks he may be able to get the barge up us sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So I was hoping that it might be possible to get a permit approval for these 3 piling replacements at Harbor Marina. And if there's any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
yeah.
John, you've been looking at this, correct?
Yes, I talked to Peter about this on Friday, and he just said what we talked about. I think this is the best way to handle it. It's 2 additional pilings to what he asked for, in addition to the one he asked for last October, which we granted him. That permit ran out the end of January, I think it was. So I think a simple permit to put in these 3 pilings would be the way to go. And then we talked a little bit about if there's maintenance work that the marina feels needs to be done over time, maybe put that together and come back to us for possibly a multi-year permit that would take into account maintenance to some docks, bulkheads, and other pilings.
Hey, John, we have a permit on this already, correct?
It's expired.
Okay. Do we have an application in for renewal? Or can
Well, Peter initially wanted to renew it and add 2 more pilings,
Yeah,
but it's been inactive. It was expired in, I believe, the end of January, and that was for 1 piling. So he's already put in his application for a new permit for the 3 pilings.
so we
It's in
have
the office. It's in the office. The fee's been paid.
Yeah, this is a pretty minor deal. I'd like to make a motion that we just grant the permit.
we have a second.
Yes, I'll second it. I did read the permit application and it looks perfectly fine to me, and I think we should go ahead with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Francis, I'm recusing myself. This is Rick.
Okay, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay. Peter, are you considering a 3-year maintenance?
I think from if, to kind of help make the process more efficient for the trustees as well as for ourselves, it would make sense for us to, for all 4 marinas, put together some sort of view as to kind of the minor maintenance issues that come up, typically unexpectedly every winter or every year, and try to put together a multi-year maintenance permit. We've done that with the New York State DEC. It's a 10-year maintenance permit, and it pretty much covers everything that's there and pre-existing, and says if it's there and pre-existing and you maintain the permit conditions, i.e. use of untreated wood, et cetera, in kind in place, that you're allowed to do the work when you give notice to the DEC of commencement and completion. And I think a similar concept might make sense for the trustees. It might take a little while to pull that together, but we can certainly do that. And sometime, maybe over the next few months, we'll come back to you with some proposals for maintenance permits that are multi-year that would be for the simple stuff. So it kind of smooths the process out.
I would just like to say, I thought we discussed that, Peter, several months ago, and we had all agreed that that would be a very good idea, because I think you had presented it to us some time ago, and I think it makes sense for the trustees as well as for you.
Yeah, that was probably my brother, Mark, and we did do a 3-year maintenance permit at 3 Mile Harbor Marina for some dredging and bulkheading work, and that worked out well. So we'll try to apply a similar concept for the other marinas. We just haven't done it proactively. We've done it reactively, and I think a proactive approach might make sense.
I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. Do you need anything else from us, Peter? Oh, there you are, Peter.
Yeah, no, I don't. Thank you very much, and good luck with the rest of the meeting. And the only other thing I'd like to say is I sent an email to the trustees and the town board, basically thanking you all for your role in the reconstruction and rebuilding of the 3 Mile Harbor jetties. In these recent storms we've had this April and March, it's made a huge difference. There's no more sand going through from Maidstone into the entrance channel, none at all. The people who did the work did a great job. Ed Michaels and his team, he hired a consultant to get the rocks placed and chinked properly, and it worked out great. And the West Jetty, which had the wooden surface re-put back on, is now dramatically reduced the wave action and the erosion in the harbor when there's a northwest blow. So we'd love to see that increased in height next time it's rebuilt to maybe another 18 inches higher, because that would provide hurricane protection. But it was a really nice job, and we thank the trustees and thank the town because the harbor is much better off for it. And hopefully it will reduce costs and reduce work in the future, dredging out sand that used to flow right through the jetty. So nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Sure.
Would I like to what? Yeah.
Is this Andrew again?
No, I just had a question about the channel in Accabonac Harbor. They let the point go out so far that it's making it a navigational hazard, and it's also a hazard to all the people that use the beach channel. And our bay constables don't put any buoys out. They don't change, screen off the beach, tell them not to swim 20 foot wide now. And it looks like somebody's going to get injured. I think they sure on that than they do at the culvert, which is a failure.
Bill, you want this one?
No, I mean,
Pardon me?
we are, we're trying to get people to move on it. It's a county project.
I thought
every
the
time-
East Hampton trustees were in charge of town waters.
This is a Suffolk County channel. We've sent them correspondence. We're considering trying to get permission to do it ourselves, and we're working on it. As far as the people are not supposed to be swimming in the channel. It's against town
Well, they do,
regulations.
and you all should know it. And our harbor masters know it, but they don't do anything about it.
All right. Well, on our part, we are looking into all possibilities for trying to take something off the end of that point to make it better. All right. And we might have to do something where we temporarily leave the sand down the end or something. As far as people swimming in the channel, they shouldn't be doing it. We could request more enforcement if it becomes a problem.
Yeah, they should, but they haven't for the last 2 years. I've been fishing that creek since 1972, and I've never seen such a failure from response for any of the trustees or harbor masters. At that time, they were bay constables. It's getting dangerous.
Well, trustees aren't the enforcers of swimming laws. We're doing what we can to try to get that point cut back a bit so it'd make it easier for you to get in and out. And again, it is scheduled for full dredging this coming fall. So that's good news.
Well, what happens this spring?
We're working on it.
Fall,
We're trying to
as they
get,
do in the spring.
we're working on it. The county owns the permit for that work. We have to work under that permit with their permission. There's also piping plovers present down there. So we're working around all these different issues and trying to figure out a way to approach it. But believe me, we're not ignoring it.
Yeah, right. It's for your time.
I'm sorry?
Wasted time. Thanks for your time, but it's wasted.
Okay, have a good night. Is there anyone else? Hello? Matt? Is there anybody else on the lines? Okay, so no, we won't be accepting any more calls. Thank you. All right, let's move on to new business. I have here an application received on behalf of 4 property owners: 611 Lazy Point Road, 619 Lazy Point Road, 621 Lazy Point Road, and 623 Lazy Point Road for a joint coastal erosion mediation plan.
We received this just a week or so ago, and it came with quite a bit of documentation. It's a company that's out of California. They've done work in Florida. They've done work overseas. They had a lot of background information that really isn't quite background. It's somewhat speculative. And this is going to be one of these projects. The methodology that they're looking to use here is essentially to sort of put aeration pipes into the beach. I did have a conversation with Brian Frank and what planning's thoughts are on this. It's a somewhat benign project, even though there's a discussion of putting these pipes into the beach. They're installed vertically. It's just a simple auger type low impact machine to do the work. But I think there's a lot more work, a lot more information is going to need to come forward before we're ready to make any sort of decision on this. Right now, it's at the committee level. I think it should stay there for the time being. And it's really one of these things, because it's basically technology that I've never seen employed before. This is one where we're going to really need to have the applicant or their agent come to one of our meetings and do a full-blown presentation on this, so we have a better understanding of exactly what they're doing. Some of the dialogue in their application is sort of is encouraging in the fact that there's an awful lot of monitoring attached to this thing, so that we could find out whether this will actually work or not. But this is nowhere close to being ready for any sort of a vote or decision making by our board. So I would like to table this at this time, and let's wait until when we can get back to meetings where these people can come in and actually do a formal presentation.
I would like to add to that, Jim. I agree with you 100%. I have read the proposal and I have several notes, and I think it would be a little premature. There's a lot of information in here. It is a new methodology, as you say, only done in Florida so far. But I wrote a list of questions, so I think we should really carefully examine how this project would be performed, and whether or not we have data that's from at least Florida showing us how well this project has worked down there and how long it's been there. Well, so I think as a committee, we need to really get into the details of this. And I was thinking that at some point, having someone that is an expert to explain it to us, and not just the applicant, because they're going to be pro for the project. But there is a lot in here, and I think it really needs to be digested and examined thoroughly.
Well, I think some of that's going to occur when they go through the ZBA process on this. They do have to go through DEC. They've got to go through Army Corps. Thing I did find a little troubling on some of the data was more speculative than actually collected data on the on the site itself. They discuss about clay soils and stuff down there. I really don't know that there is any clay soils down there. I think there might be some peat mat or something that's exposed at the beach edge, but for the most part, that whole sand spit is all mull sand. So anyway, there's a long road to go here before we do it. Some of their stuff from Florida, let's face it, there's a completely different sand types in Florida and places like that. The sand is not composed of eroded stone there. A lot of times that sand is eroded coral reef, so it's a calcareous material, where I think we're sort of salacious here. It's silica and quartz. And what wasn't really that encouraging was the letter from the town in Florida discontinuing their relationship with this company. So I'm not sure what that was all about, but yeah, if we could, let's table this for the time being.
Okay. Let's move on to old business. An update on the kayak racks at Louse Point, Gerard Drive, Settlers Landing, and Mile Hill Road.
Well, Francis, you and I met with Chris Hamilton a week or two ago, looking at Gerard Drive and Louse Point racks to see where a few more might be placed. We sort of agreed on one more at Gerard Drive and 3 more at Louse Point. I think Settlers Landing for the moment has enough. There'll be some repairs done there. And Mile Hill Road, I believe for the moment, there are enough. We could probably think about adding something in there if the need arises as the season moves on. I talked to Chris late last week, and he was going to get me a price on this, which would be basically the same price as he's gave us last year for the wrecks that he built for labor, and we'll buy the materials. I haven't gotten that yet, so I think we'll wait for it to come in before we move ahead with it. That's okay.
Is it really something we need to wait to vote on? I thought we already approved going ahead with constructing whatever we decided we could fit.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I just felt as though it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to know what the price was at this meeting. We could continue to just go ahead with it once he gives us the price, or we could decide to wait for 2 weeks to vote on it.
We're not going to be meeting for another 2 weeks. What's the board's feelings?
Well, my feelings is he built the last couple racks that we've got out there. If maybe we go back to him and ask him if his pricing is going to be consistent with what he charged us the last few racks that he's done, I would say that we just go ahead and do this.
He did say that, Jim. He did say, yeah. That.
So you know what? I'd like to make a motion at this point. We approve it.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Okay. So we'll go ahead, give him the go ahead to just get those things up. Next issue, we need to discuss and vote on Dr. Gobler's proposed 2020 water quality monitoring study.
Okay, so.
Has everybody seen that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
John?
Yes, I've seen it. I sent it out. Maybe just give a little background on this.
Please.
The Water Quality Committee that we set up to take a look at our water quality monitoring needs and history and future consisted of Susan, Jim, Mike, and myself. Met with Dr. Gobler back in January or February, I believe, and discussed possible alterations to the sampling regime in light of other work has been done, is being done in the harbors. We also met with several other groups that are doing water quality sampling in the area, such as Surfrider Foundation, Cornell Cooperative, Concerned Citizens of Montauk, some folks from Sag Harbor, and got a sort of a summary of the work that they're doing. And then we went back to Dr. Gobler and again talked about possible alterations to the work we're doing with him to see if it might make more sense. If we could get information that we don't now have and find ways to substitute information that he's been getting for us in other ways. And I think we came up with an altered proposal from him that will be beneficial to us going forward. So that basically the changes from what we've been doing in the past are these. We'll eliminate his fecal coliform monitoring, but he will use DEC fecal coliform monitoring data to continue to analyze that aspect of the water quality in the harbors. In terms of the toxic dinoflagellate testing that he's been doing, which has been for Dinophysis, Alexandrium, and Cochleodinium. We'll continue Cochleodinium testing since it's shown up a little bit more consistently from year to year and has been a problem, particularly in 3 Mile Harbor. However, because Dinophysis has been really seen in very low levels in all the testing he's done, we felt we could eliminate that. And similarly for the Alexandrium, which produces a very virulent red tide, it's been shown in very low levels. So we feel that that's worthwhile eliminating, except in 3 Mile Harbor, where of all the levels tested, none of which have been risen to any problematic level, but they've been higher in 3 Mile Harbor than in other harbors. And given the sensitivity of 3 Mile Harbor and the stress that's been put on it, we felt it was wise to maintain that testing in that harbor. And so in place of some of this work that we're eliminating, we're able to do a little bit more microbial source tracking work. If you recall that 2 years ago, we started with 3 stations in 3 Mile Harbor. And then last year, Dr. Gobler took samples, in addition to 3 Mile Harbor, he took samples in Accabonac Harbor and held them in case we wanted to use them for microbial source tracking analysis there, which we decided to do at the end of the season. So in addition, going forward, we'll be able to continue with 3 sites in 3 Mile Harbor, 3 sites in Accabonac Harbor. We'll add 1 site in Northwest Creek and 1 site in Hog Creek to do microbial source tracking work to try to determine where the bacterial load may be coming from, whether it's human or bird or small mammal or the 4th one, which I forget. And in addition to the additional microbial source tracking work, we'll be able to, we'll also put a continuous temperature and dissolved oxygen monitor in 3 Mile Harbor. And we felt that was important because of the work that we're looking into moving towards in the possibly reopening the East Inlet, and some of the concern that temperature in the harbor may be high because there isn't as much water flow there as there used to be. So that continuous temperature dissolved oxygen monitor will give us more information than just biweekly samples will. And then finally, in sort of a substitute for the fecal coliform monitoring that he won't be doing himself, we'll maintain all those stations and instead test for total nitrogen there. So there really hasn't been any comprehensive look at nitrogen load in our waters, and that's something that's becoming more and more important to see if these new septic systems are having a positive effect. So we felt it would be a good idea to get some data on nitrogen load in the harbors. And so that's basically the changes that we've made from previous years to this year. And the budget for that this year will remain at what it was last year, before we added the 3 hydroponic microbial source tracking stations at $60,133.
John, could I ask you about Fresh Pond? That you and I have discussed that. I had gone up and taken some videos and pictures. And that is, if I understood what we discussed, there will be a site there that will be tested as well.
Right. We had 2 sites in Fresh Pond in 2017. That was discontinued in 2018 and 2019. And we've reinstated 1 station there to be tested with basic water quality parameters.
Hey, John, where's the station? Where's that in relationship to the to Fresh Pond?
Inlet?
Well, to the inlet, is it down on the beach, or is it back by the comfort station?
I think that when we had 2 stations there, I think there was 1 at the inlet on the beach and 1 back in the creek, probably towards the western side of the picnic area, I believe. That looks like where they were on the map. We didn't really discuss where the station should be. I wanted to get back to Dr. Gobler, and talk about that. And I think it might, I'm not sure, maybe you want to weigh in on this, Jim, but I think it might be best to be taken a little bit up the creek, so we get a.
Well, yeah, and this may be stuff that's kind of old and outdated at this point. You know, Natural Resources did some real work on Fresh Pond a number of years ago, and I had a discussion with Kim Shaw, and they approached it with the attitude that they assumed that the source of the coliform contamination was the public bathrooms there, which really honestly don't get that much use. But when they started tracking it, they actually found out that the source of the contamination was actually coming from houses and some cottages that are up the hill and across the street. So, you know it's there. We've got an application before the DEC right now for the dredging over there, which I'm assuming they're going to act on in due time. But it's not going to really do anything to address that the E. coli numbers and stuff there. Now, Susan, you distributed a video the other day I saw on Facebook, as you forwarded it to me, where you described that the Surf Rider Association and stuff was monitoring that it was contaminated or polluted. But just keep in mind, those photographs of the water that you were distributing, that's tannins in the water.
No, I
That's-
understand that.
Okay, that's not any kind of pollution. That's commonly called tea water. If you go to Fresh Pond in Montauk, you get a similar condition, and it's no indication of the actual water quality itself.
No, I understand that, and we had
Okay.
discussed that last year, as well as Francis had also expressed the same. The videos were simply to show, and I took from the proposal from Drew Bennett, his description of what the dredging would be and why. I did not make any mention of Surf Rider.
Okay, it seemed to, well, actually, I think you did mention Surf Rider, that they had been testing it.
No, I may have put something into an email to all of you about the various different other organizations who have been testing.
Yeah,
And
I know
recently sent out, they
you
sent
said-
out recently,
yeah.
CCOM and Surfrider sent out their overall testing for the last testings that they both did.
And I think kind of getting back to John's point earlier about some of this sort of overlapping and redundant testing is if Surfrider is doing testing themselves down there for coliform and Enterococcus, I don't know that we need to do our own testing on top of that. And that's something for a discussion with Chris, whether he thinks that we're gathering some valuable information here.
Well, Jim, we are eliminating fecal coliforms from Chris's test regime.
Okay, is he going to do is he talking about doing a microbial source?
Not in Fresh Pond, no.
Okay. Because
I think that's what Kim did with a group. Well, it wasn't exactly microbial source, but they did look, as you described, they looked around the harbor and determined that the bacterial load was coming in from the cottages to the south. There'll just be nitrogen, total nitrogen test
All right.
at Fresh Pond.
Yeah, do we have a motion on this?
Does anybody else want to comment on it first? Rick, do you want to say anything about it?
No, I'm good, Francis. I think it's a good proposal. I like the way things were shifted around. So we're using the budget from last year to get into some newer, more advanced types of testing. So I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve this then.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would just like to say that the whole point of having a water quality subcommittee was to see what everyone else is doing so we could be cooperative in our efforts and see with Dr. Gobler if we were able to eliminate things that the other groups were doing so that we would not be redundant. So I think it's worked out very nicely, and thank you to Jim and to Mike and John for all the work that you've put into this as well.
I would like to add also here for a second, if I could. A thank you to everybody that came together, CCOM included, and the CCOM and their testing has value, but in addition to the value of their testing, they're actually reaching out to neighbors and encouraging, to take advantage and teaching folks how to take advantage of these new septic, I'll call them gifts. And the warders really need people to step up and update their septic if they can. And I'm grateful to the CCOM for their work in encouraging problematic homes to update their septic. So in particular, perhaps maybe they could stop by and knock on the doors of those cottages in the south there.
I'd just like to say too that we've been in touch with CCOM, Surfrider, and Natural Resources to come to a trustee meeting to present the work that they did last year and the proposed work they are going to do this year. Obviously, this virus situation's put a hold on that, but we're hoping to bring them into a meeting as soon as we can so that the trustees and the public can be made aware of better aware of their work as well.
Okay, anyone else?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thanks, everyone. Let's move on to education, the Captain William J. Rysam scholarship applications.
All right, well, word is that on May 1st, the essays by the students of East Hampton High School will be ready for pickup. So I have offered to take them, they are in a sealed envelope, and bring them back to the office where identification of which students have decided to participate and hope to win or be awarded our annual scholarship fund will be brought to the office. And for those of you who would like to participate this year, I hope that you do, please feel free to go to the office. I think Arlene is going to try to make copies for each of us. I have a scanner. I'll work with Arlene on that to get each of you copies so that you can read them. It's a private vote, so you read each application, each essay, and decide which one you feel is the best in terms of applying to the trustee scholarship fund. I sent earlier today a transcript of lecture delivered by Lois Beachy Underhill. It was presented to a lecture at the East Hampton Library, and I had looked it up last year when Kevin Burns was still with us, as I wanted to learn more about William J. Rysam himself. And I really was pleasantly surprised at that time to read that his 5 daughters, he wanted them to be educated, and so he sent them to the Clinton Academy. And so I think it was very interesting to me, and I hope that those of you who are interested and have the time will read this information about Captain William Rysam. I think it's perfect that we have named our education fund in his honor. So the award ceremony will be held, I believe the date is May 20th, and depending upon what happens with the pandemic restrictions, I don't know that that will take place or not, but that would be an evening that we are invited to attend, and the winner of that award would be given by the Education Committee. So, Tim, I understand your position, and thank you, and respect and honor, your position on this. So, whoever is on education.
Myself on this vote, just because I know a lot of the junior
Okay.
and senior.
Right. Here's some noise. The whole school is invited to apply for any one of the scholarship funds that are awarded by the numerous local organizations. So it's not relegated to one specific class, but to all students. So that is it for education at the moment. And we have not been able to do anything, obviously, due to the restrictions to visit any other schools. But that's it.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Susan. Let's see what's next. We have Georgia Capon's application from LPS on behalf of Gray, owner of 17 Turbell Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-13-10-3 for Phragmites Management.
This is we actually reviewed this application months ago, and the agent was supposed to come to our next meeting and do a little presentation. It's pretty straightforward. This is a property that originally came to us with an application to rebuild a dock and replace a boardwalk going down to the dock. We asked about the history of that structure, which was a little vague. And what they've done is they're basically leaving the dock alone while they work that out. But what they want to do is do a basic straightforward cutting application There's a property to the south of this one that actually currently does have a permit from us to do cutting. So being the fact that it's a pretty benign application, I'd like to make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Jim, is this the one that they said it wasn't a dock, but it was a question whether it was a dock? Or
Well,
not a
no,
dock?
you know, there was two things there. There was a little dock, and then there was this boardwalk that I guess, or walkway that I guess at one time or another connected to the dock. Okay. The boardwalk was sitting off to one side of the property. It wasn't aligned with the structure that they have there now. Looked like it was just being stored there. They basically backed away from that. They're not pursuing any application on that line. There is a path that leads down to the dock that's going to stay the way it is. They just want to cut the Phragmites.
Okay, thanks.
So Jim, there's no restoration component yet, so there wouldn't be wildlife
There isn't
fencing
any,
being
you know
considered?
what, this is, and Rick, that's a good question. This is actually a property that the Phragmites, the stem density is such that I think it, in all likelihood, it would recover quite happily on its own. The property to the south, which I believe is birch, there was a planting component of that, but that was a little different project. In that one there had the lawn that extended quite a ways into what would typically be described as the buffer area. And one of the conditions of our permit was that they basically removed that sod and replanted and brought that buffer in. This one doesn't have a situation like that. The lawn ends at like an appropriate spot for the buffer, and the buffer essentially is dominated by the Phragmites, but there are other native vegetation species present in the area, to include narrowleaf cattail, and that I think would probably make a pretty good comeback on its own. So I honestly don't think you'd ever need to do any revegetation on this one if it's done properly.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And lastly, under committees, we have 3 Mile Harbor, a request from First Coastal to renew the application for Jerome Griffiths, owner of 60 Hedges Bank Drive, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-35-1-1.17. I don't have a description of what that work entails.
I've got it, Francis.
Okay, John.
This is a permit that just expired on Friday. They haven't gotten a chance to get to this work yet. The permit is to place approximately 800 cubic yards of sand on the bluff and install biodegradable erosion control matting and plant beach grass 12 inches on center. So this is just a request for renewing that permit. They're hoping to get to it as soon as they can get back to work. And they're doing it in conjunction with a neighboring property, which has an existing permit that hasn't expired yet. So they're hoping to get those two projects worked on together.
John, this says to renew an application. Did we ever approve a permit for it?
Yes, they have a permit. The permit has just expired. Permit number 519. And they're asking to renew that permit.
Anyone have questions?
I did reach out and speak to Billy Mack today, just so I would review myself, and there were some delays in getting the work done, but it's basically the same application that we did approve of a year ago in April.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the renewal of this permit 519.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Move on to administrative. We have payment of the bills. East
Excuse me,
Hampton.
Francis?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Could I bring one thing up on the roads committee, please?
Sure, absolutely.
In the Grace Estate property, there are two trustee roads that run from Northwest Road down to Northwest Harbor, and they are gated by, I think, Town Parks or the Nature Preserve Committee, and they're always open. And what's happened is the roads have turned into like a 4x4 rodeo. And at the end of one of the roads is Kirk's Place, where there's a nice town placard explaining some natural history of the area. And there's now smoldering bonfires in the morning, cases of beer strewn about. And it's just turned into something that's not really, an appropriate use of trustee roads or our, nature preserves. So I was wondering if we might contact one of the officers of, Parks or the Nature Preserve Committee and see about possibly, closing those gates temporarily or discussing how to better manage the use of these roads. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Rick, I know that Grace Estate in general used to have its own management committee, and it actually hired someone to monitor the property. Is that still the case? Do you know?
I don't know, but I think it's, maybe it's a good time for us to reach out and, kind of dust that off, John, and see what we can come up with. Because, I'm just getting tired of picking up cases of beer on the weekend mornings, and I'm not going to have time for it soon.
You know who's head of the Nature Preserve Committee now is Rick Whalen. We can reach out to him.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Yeah, why don't we try and do that, Francis? That'd be a
Okay.
nice reach out in the near future.
Good idea.
So maybe I can talk to you about that some more.
Sure.
Great. Thank you very much.
I think it's a great idea. I know that area very well.
Yeah, I know the Grace Estate Associate has its own homeowners association. So I think it's a good idea, Rick, to reach out to just everybody possible who would be cooperative in this. It's a shame to hear
Okay,
that there are
sounds good.
beer bottles there.
Yep.
That's a shame.
I think just shutting those gates would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think the trucks are bringing the firewood in and then the beers, and they bomb around the roads there, and they're all chewed up now, and they're driving over the vegetation. So it's just gotten to be a little bit out of hand.
I know the town actually has an employee who is assigned to that. So not quite sure
Yeah,
why.
I've met him
it's left
down there
open.
before, but it just it happens. It's Easter Sunday morning. There's a smoldering bonfire. There's a couple of cases of beer and litter around, and I don't think anyone's really on duty, et cetera. So.
And the weather
And
was
I'm just
so
afraid
nice
the
on
place may catch
Saturday.
on fire if we get a dry spell. That's the other
Right.
thing. If they're just leaving unattended fires, that's where it gets a little scary for everyone, including the local homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Rick.
Of course, no problem.
Anybody have anything else before we move on to administrative? No? Okay. So we'll go back to payment of the bills. We have the East Hampton Business Service, $177.23. Optimum, $136.43. Staples, $422.45. Vistria Materials for dredging the culvert, $28,800. You guys know how much sand was removed from there, Jim?
I don't know how much sand was removed from there. I know how much sand actually went down to Baby's Beach, which I did want to touch on, which I don't believe they charged us to do. I think that was going to be a donation.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to mention, we had spoken quite some time ago about basically trying to address that vehicle access problem and the baby bathers at Baby Beach by building a little bit of a natural looking dune across there. The sand is down there. I'm going to send a machine down in the next few days to grade the area off, but that was about 200 yards, I think, that they brought.
All right. Have you been down there, Jim?
Since they dumped the sand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that whole thing has been cut out by the tides.
Oh, yeah?
The beach itself, yeah. It's like that whole inside where, remember where we had the inside picket fence? Not picket fence,
Yeah,
split
Stockade.
rail.
yeah. Well, it's just posts now.
Yeah, it's all cut out and there's a point that goes out by the channel.
Yeah.
So I don't know there's not much there for that whole area. So it's going to be interesting to see what you can do with it.
Well, my job is just to make a berm for
Uh-huh.
and plant beach grass, which, guys, it might be a first opportunity for a social distancing sort of community event to get in and plant the
Sounds good.
All right. And okay, so we need a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we've received the financial report for February. Has anybody had a chance to look at it?
No.
No, I haven't.
So table
No,
that.
I haven't. I don't believe I've gotten it, Francis. Are we supposed to pick them up at the office, or are they going to be emailed?
Arlene, are you still there?
I'm here. I'll jump in. You had that in your folder from last meeting, and Francis has a copy. He can give you to look over now if you want. If you want to give him your copy, Francis. They were distributed at the last real meeting, I think.
Oh, then I have it. Okay.
Yeah, it was
Thanks,
March
Arlene.
March 9th. We had a
Okay.
meeting. Dr. Goble came. March 23rd, we didn't. So yeah,
Right, right.
you've had it,
Okay,
and
so we all
I'm
have 'em.
happy to
Yeah.
email it out to you guys if you need it.
Yeah, I think I was away at that meeting. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Arlene,
that's
it might be
disconnect.
better to just email it out so everybody can review it at their leisure.
Excellent, will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arlene.
Okay, and on report of the clerk, we need to set up an executive session next week to meet with our special counsel about Deepwater. So what will work for everyone?
Tuesday or Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
I can do either day. Anybody else?
Any day is fine.
Which day?
Any day, whatever you all decide.
So far, we have Tuesday, Wednesday.
This is next Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes.
I'm good with either.
I'm good with either. Would that be a Zoom meeting?
No, that would just be a call and phone conference.
Okay. Okay, great.
I could do either day as well.
Yeah, I'm good. Anything.
Chris, how about you?
Any of those days work for me as well, Francis.
Okay.
Which day are we doing it?
Either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Is it going to be a Zoom format or what's the
I
plan?
think
No, call in.
On call.
Yeah, the way we usually do it,
Okay.
unless you want to do a Zoom.
No, this was painful enough.
No, this way we get to see people.
Yeah. Tim, how about you? Ben?
Yeah, that's fine. Tuesday. You mean Zoom or call in?
It'll probably be a call in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, any day is good for me.
Okay. And Tim?
Yep, totally fine. Either day is fine for me.
Okay.
This is the highlight of our week.
Yeah, I got something on my schedule.
We'll shoot for Tuesday. I'll talk to them tomorrow and send you out an email to confirm which day. All right?
Francis, do you know when the next settlement conference is, or if there is one scheduled?
I have to dig through my emails to find that.
That's fine, never mind.
I'll forward it to you.
I
That
just,
was John, right?
yeah, I'm just wondering if it was going to be one next week or not.
Yeah. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to discuss? No? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I
Thank
know
you.
this wasn't the easiest thing to do.
Bad.
I make a motion to close.
Okay, first I want to thank Matt and Josh at LTV.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Good job, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
See everybody.
Yeah.
Be safe.
All right.
Okay.
Take
Yeah,
good
plant-
care.
We'll be planting grass on
care.
Dave's beach soon.
Yep.
Pretty soon, yeah. This thing went smoother and smoother as it went along.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to have to get used to it for a while.
Okay.
All right. Good night,
All right,
everyone.
we have a motion to
night.
close.
Motion to close.
Close.
Where's the second?
Aye.
Second.
All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Yep.
night.
Thanks.
So long.
night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Night night.